Welcome into the Pig Trail Show. I'm Evan Camico alongside Kevin McPherson. Kevin, big win yesterday for Arkansas basketball in the exhibition over Purdue. Final score 81-77 in overtime. Let's jump right into it. What was your biggest takeaway from yesterday?
Well, we knew Arkansas had the most experience ever when you looked at an Eric Musselman team, and he gets a lot of transfer portal guys. So that's a big statement. You had 5 returnees, Devo Davis and Trevor Brazile headlining that, but you had a lot of talented guys, especially in the backcourt and the portal. With all that experience and in a mix of talent, I keep talking about positional versatility 1 through 5 and the diversity of skills that help make it enhance everything. They still hadn't been on the court together against a meaningful team, against meaningful competition. And it doesn't get much more meaningful than a team that's been ranked preseason 3 by AP, 2 by coaches, 1 according to one of the CBS polls, 1 according to KenPom, and a team that won the Big Ten last year. So you wonder, how is this team going to come together and compete? And then you can have a great game for 35 minutes. And then what happens in the final 5 minutes when you're playing a championship caliber team and you're still figuring out, all right, the stakes go up a little higher in a close game late. Who are my closers? Who's going to step up? So the biggest takeaway for me is that we learned some answers on those things, and we learned them in a positive way. Eric Musselman said, this will be win or lose a learning experience. I think you want to win and learn your lessons that way. I think the biggest lesson for Arkansas in the negative way was the rebounding, but I thought pretty much everywhere else, Arkansas was the better team. Rebounding, Purdue dominated, plus 13 offensive glass, plus 14 overall, 17-0 second chance points. But Arkansas was the better team overall, in my opinion, at both ends of the floor when you look at offense and defense. The numbers back that up. I talked about you figuring out who some of your closers are. Tremont Mark comes from a Houston program that, has had better runs when you compare it to Arkansas, who had 3 consecutive Sweet 16s with 2 Elite Eights in there. Houston's got that resume plus a Final Four, and Mark was a big part of that. We saw the ball in his hands late in the game over and over and over again. Made the big shot from 3 to send the game to overtime. And then in overtime, you saw L. Ellis, who had to come in late in regulation because Devo got injured, put Arkansas on a 7-0 run with a couple of buckets, one of those being a hard drive and one when Arkansas was down 2 that he completes the and 1 free throw, and Arkansas is now up 1. He gets in the paint for another score. Arkansas is up 3. Mark gets a pull up from the nail, a 16-footer, and now you're up by 5. But I'm talking about offense right now. If you're on a 7-0 run, that means you're doing something right on the other end as well. Arkansas held Purdue to 2 of 7 shooting in overtime. One of those shots was when the game was over. They called a goaltend at the buzzer. So leading up to that, Arkansas, when the game was decided in overtime, Arkansas held the Boilermakers to 1 of 6 from the field, got a late turnover to ice it. But I think, when we look at guys that I mentioned who are closers, and we haven't even mentioned Trevor Brazile and Zach Edey yet, but I talk about Tremont Mark, 15 points, tied with Brazile for team lead, 6 rebounds, led the team, 4 assists, co-leader with Devo Davis, 2 blocks, 1 shy of Chandler Lawson's game high, 3 blocks. We're going to talk about him, and a steal. Tremont Mark was tremendous. I thought Trevor Brazile in his first real action against a caliber team like that, 15 points. He was efficient. He knocked down a couple of threes, 2 of 4 from 3, made all 5 of his free throws. This was a game. I mentioned Arkansas getting dominated on the glass. We're going to talk about where Arkansas was much better. But this was a game where Arkansas didn't shoot its first free throws until under 12 minutes to play. 28 plus minutes of game action. By that time, Purdue attempted 13 free throws. Arkansas didn't have 1. Didn't pass the sniff test. When I come back and tell you, Arkansas won paint points 34-30. And I talked to you about second chance points and the rebounds. You would never guess based on that stat that Arkansas actually won points in the paint, because usually when you're getting beat on the offensive glass, there's close range putbacks. And when it was a 17-0 advantage and difference, you're thinking there's no way Arkansas won points in the paint. They did. And that tells me they didn't get a lot of whistles on contact driving to that basket, because they did a lot.
Right.
Having said that, Brazile makes 5 of 5, Evan, at the line. So he was really good there. 5 rebounds, did some good things defensively. I thought this was a really good game for Trevor and Brazile. L. Ellis, who's been just splendid in preseason. I thought he struggled at times in this game. But if you look at where Arkansas had some adversity, had to overcome, he had some really big stretches in this game. There was a 9-4 run to end the first half to give Arkansas a 5-point halftime lead. He spearheaded that with assists, scoring. The game was tied at that point. He helped Arkansas early when they fell behind 12-5 get things going. I've mentioned his 2 back-to-back scores in overtime. You saw the score come out in him, those instincts as a scorer to get those 2 buckets. He took a shot again on the next possession, the third one, almost a heat check, where he was feeling it on the baseline, a little nifty pull-up, and it rimmed out on him. It was close, but you could tell he was getting in that score groove because he's being asked to be a lead guard and facilitator as well. So he's got to juggle that, when to go get his and help the team that way or when to set guys up. I thought Khalif Battle off the bench, 12 points, hit a couple of threes himself, tough rebounding game from that guard position. He had 5 big boards. When you're getting beat like Arkansas was on the glass, you got to have guys step up and keep it from being a complete avalanche. And I thought he helped there. But I mentioned the 12 points. He was one of the guys late in regulation and throughout overtime who was on the floor. So he's been out a lot, missed a lot. I think we got some answers about where Musselman sees him in the rotation if he's available. Very good game for him. And then Chandler Lawson, I kind of saved this guy for last here as far as the guys that closed the game. He started the game. He started both exhibition games. The 6'8" forward transfer from Memphis with a 7'7" wingspan. I keep calling him a connector, a glue guy, does all the little things. I think he should stay in the starting lineup. I mean, I'm not overreacting to one game. This guy consistently at both ends makes those winning plays. The last frontline guy Arkansas had that was really like that was Jalen Williams. And that ended up being a second-round NBA draft pick. I'm not saying that's the future for Chandler Lawson, but he's that kind of guy. He's blocking shots. He's getting deflections. No, he's not taking charges, but he's doing the little things like Jalen did at both ends that help you win. And I think he was the best two-way player on the floor. His defense guarding Edey. Edey would, 22 points, 13 rebounds last year. They get him in foul trouble. They harassed him. It was by committee, but Lawson, that was his first number one assignment. But you look at his 10 points, 3 or 4 from the field. He gets a three-pointer, goes 1 for 2 there. His only missed shot was a 3. But he also was 3 of 3 at the foul line. So I look at this game, I go back to Mark. Yeah, he missed 4 straight free throws, but he made his last 3 in overtime. That was big. That helped seal that win. Lawson hit a couple in overtime to help seal it. But I thought Chandler Lawson, to me, he's my one. He's my starter at the 5, and he played 33 minutes. I just think this is a guy that you're going to be counting on to be on the court 25 to 35 minutes a game, depending upon matchups, foul trouble, other factors. Mekhi Mitchell started 24, 25 games last year. He's still going to be a big part of the rotation, and he may be the starter. Musselman's going to decide what he wants to do. But I think Chandler Lawson might have earned that job right now. Evan, I wouldn't be surprised on opening night if he's back in that starting lineup for a third straight game. But I love that unit. I love the freshman Layden Blocker in the first half. This guy's fearless. He's got stones. He attacked the basket. He had a pull-up 20-footer when the shot clock was running out. We can move around the dial. Even Joseph Pinion and Jeremiah Davenport were a collective 1 of 5 from 3, but they changed how the offense plays, which forces the defense to account for them because they can catch fire like that. And their box scores were both plus in the minutes they were in there. So you're not always just looking at how many threes they make. How did they impact the offense and help other guys? And so I'm just kind of going around. I don't want to leave anybody out. Mekhi Mitchell had some good moments in there. Devo Davis got hurt, but still had a game high matching 4 assists in there. I think 3 rebounds, 3 big steals. His defense was elite. Like I mentioned, Edey, they held him to 15 and 9 in 1 block. He fouled out. He was dealing with foul trouble. Devo had a first half foul trouble and sat, 15 minutes nearly in that first half. And then he got hurt late in regulation when they brought Ellis back in to close that game. Devo would have been on the floor, but a pretty good, solid defensive game. Braden Smith, the point guard, 7 turnovers. 7 turnovers. So he got 12 or 13 points. Lawyer had 15 to tie Edey for game high for that team. Gillis made some open threes, 3 of them in the second half that kept Purdue in it when Arkansas had a 9-point lead or a 7-point lead. But the biggest test, and I know I've said a lot, the biggest test to me was Arkansas was up 7. They had some bad possessions toward the end of regulation, and Purdue went on that 13-3 run and grabbed that 3-point lead. And it was really down to what was Arkansas going to do with under 30 seconds left on its final possession. And I thought they could have played it multiple ways. Go to the basket, try to drag the game out. Maybe you get an and 1. If you don't, you can get free throws, maybe get a 2 close range. And then you start playing the can I get a steal in the backcourt or foul game and stretch the game out. They decided to set up for a 3. Musselman talked about that. It worked perfectly. Mark was on the ball. He made the read. He pulled up. And from my vantage point, as soon as it left, I had a perfect angle on it. I'm like, that ball's going in after it got halfway point to its arc. And that sent the game to overtime. So this team proved not only does it start identifying some closers, but those closers are pretty darn good against a team that basically returned everybody, save for maybe one guy who had a pretty good game himself, the Jones, the kid, the transfer from Southern Illinois.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest things that, a couple things that you said. One, the free throw thing. Arkansas did not get to the line in the first half. That absolutely jumped out to me right away when I was looking at stats at halftime. And Purdue, they're going to get their fouls. They're going to get calls. Zach Edey is, a unique player. You're not going to see, if you're Arkansas, a player like Edey probably until March, if that. And I think a big thing for Arkansas is, how do you overcome that? How do you, use your speed to get around them? And I think they did a really good job there using the speed and attacking the rim. Yeah, you'd love to see them get to the line earlier. I think that's a big thing because, again, you want to get to the free throw line, get those easy points, get rolling. I thought the offense for a little bit, looked a little slow, but then finally started picking things up. Yeah.
You know what, Evan? Arkansas ends up -8 in free throws attempted. It could have been much worse, and that's one of the things that made Purdue so good. They're really good in the rebound margins last year. Well, they were yesterday for sure. Free throw line, that's the same thing. But I told you it didn't pass the sniff test because as much as Arkansas attacked, but still Arkansas ends up with 17 free throw attempts in the final 11 minutes and 23 seconds. They end up 13 of 17. I mentioned Mark missing 4 in a row before he made his final 3. He was the only one that missed free throws. Brazil made his. Lawson made his. Ellis made his. So you had all of them. So 13 to 17, Arkansas only ends up. They were -8 in attempts, but only -4 in makes because Purdue didn't have an efficient game from the free throw line. 68%, Arkansas 76%. So they hung in there in the free throw department. That was one of my keys of the game. I thought they were going to have to try to stay close and rebounding. They really didn't, but they made up for it in the turnover department. They forced 20 with 14 steals. Arkansas defensively, this was a team in Purdue in 2-point field goal percentage last year, the top 25 in the country, 54%. When you looked at the 2-point percentage, Arkansas held them to 18 of 40, 45%, nearly a 10-point difference in percentage on the 2-point field goals. Arkansas held them under 30 on threes. And so when you put it all together, 38.8% overall field goal percentage for a team like that, when we know Edey can go and give you 30 and maybe have a 10 of 12 kind of game from the field, you put him in. You kind of put him in jail in this game. Lawson did a great job. Arkansas, you sent a lot of guys on his blind side. I talked about that pregame, guards kind of digging in against his vision to disrupt him. There would be ways that you could maybe get him off balance or get him uncomfortable. I thought Arkansas did a good job. He had a really strong opening to the second half. But other than that, when you look at the arc of the game, that was not a game where Zach Edey had his way. And I thought Arkansas, even though some of the guards hit some shots, they also had a lot of turnovers. I mentioned Braden Smith at the 7. Arkansas did a great job of forcing those turnovers. Offensively, Arkansas shot over 50% in this game, nearly 51%, 30 of 59 from the field. You'll take the 8 of 23 from 3. That's 35%. That's miles and miles better when you look at makes, volume of takes, and percentage. Last year, it doesn't seem like it when you look at it, but it is because you've now given the defense something else they have to account for. They can't just pack it in and wait on those drives. You saw some clear driving lanes. You saw Arkansas. Purdue is so disciplined, and they communicate so well at both ends in what they do. I thought the difference in the game offensively for Purdue is when they started running their sets, they looked so crisp and good. But when it was time for someone to take a shot or drive, an Arkansas got them down late in clock. That's where Arkansas, it seemed like, other than some 2 or 3 busted assignments where Gillis hit those threes, Arkansas seemed like contested just about every shot that was taken. And that's how you hold a team down like that. And that's how you get turnovers. So I thought Arkansas's offense versus in combination with defense, they were the superior team in this game from that standpoint. The teams were pretty even when you look at the scoreboard, but I thought really Arkansas, most of those 15 turnovers were self-inflicted. If they can clean that up and figure out a way to be better on the glass, they're going to be hard for anybody to beat this year. I'm not predicting an undefeated season, but I'm saying you just tested yourself against one of the top teams in the country and you passed it. You were at home. But if I'm Eric Musselman tomorrow, Monday morning, 8 a.m., I'm petitioning the NCAA to make that one count. You can't tell me 20,000 fans in October in a game like that against teams like that shouldn't count for something somewhere other than just perception. And it's, I kid, but it was that kind of game. I asked Matt Painter,
100%.
head coach Purdue, after the game, where did this have a March feeling? And he didn't give me that, but he said it had a Big Ten road game feeling. You know, there's nothing like conference play. That means more than anything during the regular season in terms of where the passion is with fans, players. Those teams know each other in conference play. Typically, they're playing home and away, but it's always there's history and it matters. It's just extra. You know, all games matter. You need to win to build your resume, and then March matters more than anything. But during regular season, that's a high compliment for a game played in October that doesn't count to your net or your record.
Yeah, absolutely. An exhibition game, raising money for charity, the tornado relief, which,
Yeah.
all of the things are so great about that game. And that's what made yesterday really special. And even with that, you're bringing in a big crowd, but you're also bringing in a lot of recruits as well for that game. That's a big marquee game that UCLA guys that you're going out to recruit. Hey, we're bringing Purdue in and selling out Bud Walton in October. That's a really big thing for, the recruits who were here yesterday. And you'll have more on that.
Yeah, they had 10 in-state guys, which I thought was neat. So 3 of those guys hold Arkansas offers. Another one of those players has some Arkansas interest and some Division I offers. I'm going to rattle off those names right now. I'm going to start with 2025 Terrion Burgess, national top 50 player here in Central Arkansas, 4-star, 6'9" combo forward at Benton. He's been to a lot of Arkansas games over the past year, including football. He's been on unofficial visits. I think Arkansas is in great shape with him, by the way. Class of 2025, 6'9" combo forward. He's at 3'4". He brings a little something to the table. He may still be growing, but he was there. Also class of 2025, Isaiah Seeley in your backyard, your neighbor in Springdale High School, 6'6" guard. I love this young man's game. He's a national top 50 player as well, another 4-star. I know this coaching staff likes both of those young men, but Isaiah Seeley, well, he's got high major offers outside of Arkansas, just like Burgess does. But a guy who went to the red-white game. So this is his second time on campus in October to go to a game. And then we had Aiden Chronister, who had also attended the red-white game back on October 4th, class of 2026. 247 Sports has him rated as the number 29 player in the country in that deep Arkansas 2026 class, a 4-star out of Rogers, 6'7" wing, also in your backyard in Northwest Arkansas. The hoops in the 479 are really good, Evan, all over the state, but the 479 right now repping those 2 guys and others. And then another player to keep an eye on out of Maumelle, 6'7" forward. This young man has been on an unofficial visit with his teammate and Jacob Lanier, who does have an Arkansas offer. We talk a lot about Jacob Lanier at Maumelle. He wasn't there yesterday.
All right, Kevin, let's move on. Pro Hogs NBA season opened up on Tuesday. How are some of our former Razorbacks doing in the NBA?
Well, several of them are off to great starts. Moses Moody, he's right now with the Golden State Warriors. He helped win an NBA title, had some rotation minutes in the playoffs as a rookie, and set some standards for his age and being a rookie in those playoffs when you look at the history of the NBA. But he's in the rotation in that second unit right now, and he's off to a great start. Through 2 games, the Warriors are 1-1, but he's helped them. He's averaging 10.5 points, shooting well over 50% from the field and from the 3-point line. So keep an eye on Moses Moody's efficiency in addition to those averages. 3 rebounds and 3 steals a game, just 2 games. But the Warriors are back on the court today, a road game against the Rockets. We'll keep an eye on Moses Moody in game 3, but he's off to a great start. When you look at it's not just when you look at numbers, I've watched these games, his impact, he's just, he doesn't try to do more than his role is. He understands his role, and he's still a very young player, year 3 coming into. So keep an eye on him. Isaiah Joe, similar situation, the 6th man with Oklahoma City Thunder. They're off to a 2-0 start. They're actually playing right now as we record this. Home game, their home opener, 2-0 on the road. Chicago and Cleveland. Now they're at home against the Denver Nuggets, the defending reigning world champions. So we'll see how that goes. That game's underway. But Isaiah Joe in that 6-man role, averaging 9.5 points through 2 games. But a guy that's just he plays his role at both ends. He's a great team defender. He'll take charges. He's tougher than people think on the on-ball defense, and then he's a sniper from 3. But he's a guy that's in that similar role, that 6-man role. And, he and Moody are kind of moving in that direction right now, and still young in their careers. What we know Bobby Portis is, by the way, with Milwaukee, they'll have their second game today, but the Bucks opened up with a home win. It was a great game, a 1-point win over the 76ers, 2 of the top teams in the Eastern Conference the last several years. And Bobby had 10 points, 6 rebounds, a couple assists, a block shot. he always does a little bit of everything in that 6-man role to impact winning. And a guy that was in one of the 3 finalists last year for the NBA 6-man of the year. He didn't win it, but he was one of the 3 finalists. So, I kind of see those 3 hogs as kind of be the gatekeepers right now in terms of play. Jalen Williams is out for OKC for a few games, dealing with a hamstring issue. He missed the last 2 preseason games. We're going to keep an eye on him. He's another guy that I think factors into a 2-deep rotation for the Thunder. But we move around the league. The rookie pro hogs are learning how tough life can be already in the NBA. Anthony Black, Nick Smith Jr., and Jordan Walsh just a couple of days ago. All 3 of their teams were in close competitive games, and all 3 of those guys got to watch with the clapping 5. Not in the top 2 rotation right now, but that's part of it, man. Perhaps all 3 of those guys spend time in the G League this year. That's part of your development as a rookie. For a lot of guys, for most guys, they're going to have some of the best players in the NBA did that G League route as part of being, they're not on 2-way contracts. These are roster players, but they're going to move them around and give them some chance to go get some minutes and learn the NBA game, even if it's not against NBA competition just yet. And
Absolutely.
some of those G League guys have been in the league.
Absolutely. And it'll be fun to see them develop and grow. And again, it's easy to get in. Well, I mean, it's not easy to get into the NBA, but once you're in, again, only 5 guys play on the court, and there's 12, 13 guys a team. So like I said, easy to quote unquote get in, but when you actually have to get on the court and fight for minutes, that's where it gets hard, especially with a lot of these teams where Jordan Walsh, you're on, the Celtics, that's one of the best teams in the league, and Nick Smith Jr. over in, Nick Smith Jr. is in Philly, and that's, again, another really good team. And now Anthony Black, that's a very young team as well. So in Orlando.
We were covering the Hogs yesterday. Daniel Gafford had his first double-double of the season, the former Hog with the Washington Wizards.
Mm-hmm.
They won a home game against Memphis, the Memphis Grizzlies. He had 10 points, 11 rebounds, a couple of blocks, and a box score +8 in a close game. I think it was 113-108 or 113-106, something like that. You mentioned Nick Smith Jr. at Charlotte, Anthony Black with Orlando, Jordan Walsh with the Celtics. All 3 of those guys, to me, this season is going to be very valuable as rookies for them to just soak it all in. Listen to the veterans. You got to pick the right veterans. You got to put, you'll figure out who the guys on the strong guys on the team are in terms of who you want to learn from and try to emulate as far as all the things it goes into being a professional. Because these guys, we forget it when you're a one and done. You went from high school to college to the NBA draft in basically a year. And a few months later, now you're on a team. And so that's a huge leap in a short amount of time from going to being a high school kid, without a care in the world. And now you're a professional in making millions of dollars with a lot of expectations.
Absolutely. Kevin, as always, thank you. That's going to do it for us right here. We'll have more Big Trail Show after the break.